The subject of John Wayne not serving in the military during World War II has always been controversial, with some even calling him a coward. That word never sits right with me, as it's used a little too liberally, a bit like hero. While he was indeed a draft dodger, I'm not sure if anyone other than Wayne himself knew if he was a coward. He could have, after all, served in a non-combat role. It does, however, put into perspective the sacrifice other so-called cowards made during the war. Men who actually saw combat, the Lieutenant Dykes of the world. Just to be there was an extremely brave act. I don't have an opinion either way when it comes to John Wayne. I was not a great fan of his acting or movies, so I've never felt disappointment when considering the decisions he made. We have Lee Marvin to think about, for example, who was not only one of the greatest actors but also a wonderful combat Marine. I think that this subject is a good example of the world we live in today. There are so many bad things going on that we need to try to focus on the good, even if that means going back to the past. Okay, this is not a philosophy channel. Let's get on with the story. In his 1998 book, John Wayne's America, The Politics of Celebrity, author Gary Wills recounts that John Wayne was met with boos when he appeared on USO stages in Australia and Pacific Islands during World War II. The audiences, composed of combat veterans, were keenly aware that Wayne, then in his mid-30s, had not served alongside them. In December 1941, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, Marion Robert Morrison, professionally known as John Wayne, who had ironically taken his name from a Revolutionary War general, Anthony Wayne, had not yet become the legendary actor we remember today. While he had recently gained attention with the box office success of the 1939 film Stagecoach, his career was still on the rise. Wayne reportedly feared that being drafted or enlisting could significantly disrupt his momentum. If the war lasted long enough, he worried he might return too old to continue as a leading man. Many actors, both seasoned stars and rising talents, eagerly stepped forward to serve during the war. Clark Gable joined the Army Air Forces, and despite Hollywood's attempts to place him in a motion picture unit, he flew combat missions as an aerial gunner over Europe. Jimmy Stewart, initially disqualified from the draft due to being underweight, famously bulked up, reportedly with the help of beer and bananas, until he met the requirements, embodying a real-life version of Captain America. I will also cover the military careers of Henry Fonda, Lee Marvin, Ernest Borgnine, Charles Bronson, Don Adams, and Humphrey Bogart, who probably don't receive the recognition they deserve in terms of their service. In his 2014 book, American Titan, Searching for John Wayne, author Mark Elliott claims that Wayne's reluctance to join the war was tied to his affair with actress Marlene Dietrich, suggesting he feared losing the relationship. However, Dietrich herself actively contributed to the war effort. She helped smuggle Jewish refugees out of Europe, performed for Allied troops on the front lines, going so far as to cross into Germany with General George S. Patton, and may have even worked as an operative for the Office of Strategic Services. Wayne never enlisted in the military and secured a 3A draft deferment, which classified him as the sole provider for a family whose drafting would cause undue hardship. His closest connection to World War II service was portraying the heroics of others on the big screen. With many leading men off fighting in the war, Wayne rose to prominence as Hollywood's top star. During this time, he appeared in several westerns and war films, including Flying Tigers 1942 and The Fighting Seabees 1944. According to author Mark Elliott, Wayne claimed his most valuable contribution to the war effort was making films to inspire and support the troops, a sentiment the government eventually endorsed. During the war, the pressing demand for soldiers led the U.S. military to reclassify Wayne as 1A, fit for duty. However, Hollywood studios stepped in, arguing that his immense popularity was vital for wartime propaganda and troop morale. As a result, Wayne was granted a 2A deferment, indicating he was exempted from service due to his contributions to the national interest. Wayne's decision not to serve, or his efforts to avoid it, depending on one's perspective, became a source of personal regret. According to his third wife, Pilar Wayne, he spent the rest of his life as a super patriot, seemingly trying to make amends for staying home. After the war, Wayne starred in numerous World War II films, including classics like The Longest Day, They Were Expendable, and Sands of Iwo Jima. Despite his overt patriotism, critics often labeled him a draft dodger, a reputation that followed him until his death in 1979. When Wayne visited American soldiers in Vietnam in the summer of 1966, he was warmly welcomed. As he spoke to groups and individuals, he was presented gifts and letters from American and South Vietnamese troops alike, a stark contrast from what he had experienced during World War II. Wayne's legacy remained influential. His portrayal of American fighting men left an indelible mark on American culture, leading President Jimmy Carter to posthumously award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1980.